is what we say we believe as people who believe in life at fertilization, that what's in the womb deserves equal protection. This bill simply says this: every human being in Georgia from the moment of fertilization deserves to be equally protected. That's the simplicity of the bill. The problem we're seeing right now is the same problem we've seen in history. We did this in the past to our black brothers and sisters. We drew a circle around one group of people and said that, I know it's technically human, but it's not really a human, it's a black person, and so we can oppress them. And it wasn't until abolitionists stood up, Christians stood up and said, equal protection for my black brothers and sisters.
Thank you. You mentioned about your perceived history of black women and trying to exterminate the black race. Do you identify as being black or African American descent?
Do I?
Yes.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that I share a different count of melanin.
Okay. So that being said, I am African American, and so I respectfully disagree with your assessment and using our race as an argument for.
I appreciate that. Which part do you disagree with, so I can maybe respond?
All of it. Every single.
Hey, so the black woman doesn't appreciate, or rather disagrees with Jeff's assessment using our race for making a case against abortion. See, this is the problem with identity politics. This is the problem when you live within the framework of the world. The world says you're black. The world says this other person's white. Although these terms were created, invented just as much as the iPhone was. These terms were invented after Jamestown, Bacon's Rebellion, 1690 something, maybe 1668. After the blacks, whites, the indigenous servants, the slaves came together to rebel against the elitists who were hoarding all of the wealth. And so they created the white class and the black class. We got to divide these poor folks because greater are them than are we in number. So now we got white folks, black folks. But in reality, the Bible says from one drop of blood, he made the human race. So while Jeff is not melanated, he is human. So as a human, he has just as much right and privilege to utilize any examples that entails any other human. It's like saying, if you go to a board meeting for like determining the curriculum for a school year, and a parent goes and speaks, and then the board says, well, are you a teacher? Well, if you're not a teacher, then you really can't have any input on the curriculum. But nevertheless, it's my kids that's going to the school. I'm human and intellectual just as much as you. I've been through the school system. I'm educated, and I have just as much to give my input as much as you do. And if I don't want my kids learning about XYZ at this age, it's my right as a parent to say so. Just as if I could say something about genocide in some other part of the world that's going on right now, or things that happened in the past to the Jews or to the Europeans under the Ottoman Empire when they were being taken as slaves, or what was going on in Muslim Middle East as they were taking over and raping and pillaging. As a human being, I could make a critique on that. And I don't even have to be of that species. I could make a critique on a lion eating a gazelle. The Lord told us to have dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, and the creature that moves upon the face of the earth. You don't have to be that very thing in order to make an assessment on something that uses that very thing or person or ethnic group as an example. So first we have the Jew talking about don't impose your values on me, while at the same time she's imposing her values on other people, which is what society does as a collective, hypocrisy. Then we have the black woman playing the identity politics. And even as I say the black woman, in my mind, I know she's not black. She's brown. She's a human being. But I use these terms because it's terms that we identify with and that we readily know that we're talking about. I'm not going to say this um, African descendant woman living in the United States that is classified as an African American. They just say black. That just summarizes all. So it's illogical. It's honestly, it's complete nonsense because you're not black. You cannot use slavery as an example. Now, there's instances where someone can use slavery as an example that comes off disrespectful, like I saw a few years ago. It was some animal rights group, and they were advocating for, I think, monkeys that were kept in cages, and they were making the comparison, and they had pictures. Look at these monkeys in cages. We have to care for them, just like we had to care about when black people were locked in cages. So now they're equating monkeys and black people as the same, at the same value. I get the point, but that's not. Yeah, that comes off very disrespectful. That's not the angle you want to use. You know what I mean? Well, but in this case, this is life in the womb, being just as valuable as life outside the womb. And there was a time in history in which we said people who were of the African ethnic group, descended here in the United States, were not of value. And that's a simple comparison that he's making to other human beings who are in the womb. So it's amazing to see the people who are sitting up here on the panel. It's like, look, these are your leaders. These are your judges. These are your legislators. These are the ones that are passing laws, which is very telling in the times in which we live. I'm not going to go into the last days, but it's getting bad. It's getting bad. It's been bad. I'm not of the ones that's like, there was a moral golden era in these here United States. I don't think there was. In some pockets there was, but generally there never was. It's just progressively getting worse and worse. From pre-colonialism, I mean, we're not even 400 years into this nation yet, and look how far removed we are. Specifically, look at this black woman right here. 150 years ago, she would have been picking cotton in that very state, or cooking in a white person's or someone's plantation. If she lived in the South, right? She would have been exploited and marginalized. But now, you got her there, you got the brother next to her, you got another sister next to her. But now, just 150 years later, now we're the ones, well, not all of us, but some of us are the ones that are now advocating for death of another group of human beings, which simply means we're all wicked. Or we all have the potential of being wicked. Like I saw a video the other day of it was one of those Karen videos, white women being racist or whatnot. And I read a comment where somebody says, "There's no hate like white hate." And I replied and said, "Hate is hate. I've seen white hate, I've seen black hate. Everybody has the potential of being a perfect conduit of hate, and now, or of rebelling against God. The slave-holding white folks, perversion of interpretation of the scriptures, rebellion against God. And now, just 50 years ago, the black community was so religious with the civil rights when you were being oppressed by, segregation laws and redlining and, lynchings and, the freedom rides and protests and all the chaos that came in the 60s, and very religious community. But just what, 50 years later, we got the rise of black atheists. We got brothers and sisters advocating for abortion. So it's amazing how it doesn't take long for the mind to be, for a people group to be fully relied on God, and then prosperity comes and now rejection of God, rejection of God's moral laws. All right, let's finish the video.
I appreciate that. Which part do you disagree with? So I can maybe respond.
All of it, every single bit of it.
You don't agree that slavery happened in America, that white people oppressed black people?
What's that got to do with abortion?
My point, Representative, thank you for the question, was that in history we have drawn circles around classes of people. White people did it to, unfortunately and abominably, to your ancestors. White people drew a circle around themselves and said, we will be the humans that will have the rights and equal protection, but we will draw a smaller circle around our black brothers and sisters and oppress them.
You don't get to change the narrative. Just leave the talk about African American stuff to actually.
Okay. Yeah. I would just say, just in final word to that, is that I believe that all human beings have a duty to stand for justice, no matter the size, no matter the level of development, no matter the color of another human being. I believe that what made slavery such an abomination was that human beings deserve to be equally protected and shown no partiality. That's what's happening in abortion. It happened, unfortunately, in America with slavery. It happened, unfortunately, in the Holocaust.
Okay, Rev Candor. Remember.
Yeah, there's this thing called the freedom of speech. He could connect slavery to anything he wants. You may not disagree with it, then you're in the wrong seat. Don't be in the room. Freedom of speech, First Amendment. And she says that he's changing the narrative. Actually, the narrative is the same. The narrative is partiality. Whites showed partiality towards other whites and dehumanized the so-called black race, religiously, socioeconomically, and through other channels and avenues. Even to the point where they wanted to pass some legislation to where when a black man was referred to and his name was written down, that his name had to be lowercase, but when you're referring to a white man by his name, then his name had to be capitalized. You know how you capitalize, the Lord in the Bible? They wanted their names capitalized, but they wanted the black folks' name in lowercase. So in every avenues, just dehumanizing, because they were being partial towards their ethnic group. Same case in abortion. We're being partial to those who have been born. And while we are dehumanizing, we have dehumanized in society those who have not been born. And if you can't see the parallel between abortion, slavery, and Nazi Germany, and basically treating other human beings as less than, then I can't help you. If you can't see the parallel and you refuse to see that parallel, you may not agree with it, but if you don't see it, you just want to dismiss it, flippantly, then you're not fit to be in leadership.